Welcome everyone to episode 82 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Penteleresco. I write stuff and podcast too. And this week my guest is the amazing, one-of-a-kind, author extraordinaire, Sarah Johnson. I'll say lots of nice words about her in a minute, but first we gotta take care of the business at hand. I am 2 months away from having my first ever live podcast at Owl's Nest Books, May 24th, 7 to 9 p.m. I have 2 confirmed guests of this thing. I actually have a third one that's committed verbally, just making sure the schedules line up. And if so, she's going to be working for Rama apparently that night. It's going to be kind of fun. But yeah, 3 guests, 3 conversations, readings, and it's going to be fun. I'm going to be doing this live. First time I've ever done a live show like this. It's going to be a heck of an experience. I promise you guys this. We're going to go out there. I'm going to try something that's different. Similarly different about things people have done before. You're going to see me suited up. I'm going to be my dead, sexy self. And I promise you, I will knock it dead. I will rock it like nobody's business. And I will do it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. May 24th, the first thing of crazies I'm doing this year. My next little bit of crazy is I can't finish getting this cloud diver thing handed into everybody it needs to be handed into. I got to hurry and get this done as quickly as I can. Beyond that, I'm just going to talk a little bit about etiquette here. I hate having my time wasted. I'm not going to regale who did this because it's not important really right now, but this is just something. Treat my time with respect. I am supposed to be a guest on a podcast last 2 days ago is when this actually episode airs. It didn't happen. My reasoning was basically this. The podcast host contacted me the day that she wanted me to do the show and asked me if I could go on an hour early. I can do that. No problem. I had some plans that evening. I figured I would just reverse what I was going to do in the order I was going to do it. And I figured, okay, I'd be fine. And what ended up happening was when I get ready to actually go, when we talked about it, she goes, no, I'm going to put you back to the other hour. I found someone to fill this time, and I'm like, no, that's not what you do. You let me know. I hate that. I try not to do this with my guests. I've screwed up with one guest. I've been late a couple times, but I've really screwed up on one guest. That's it. Everybody else, I've done my best to fulfill it. Things have happened, but I've done my very best to fulfill it. And that's, man, you gotta try to do that stuff. You gotta treat people like there's time. Anyway, that's my rant on that. Real quickly here before we get into it, Sarah Johnson's one of my favorite people. She has a tendency to, she makes me smile. There's no one I've ever met that kind of has her reaction. She truly is one of a kind. She's an amazing author. She's got a couple things coming out, which I'll talk about at the end of the podcast. But I love her collection, Suicide Stitch. If you haven't checked it out, you really should. I love it. It gives a really good basis into her writing. Her writing is just really, really solid, sleek. It's amazing stuff. You should definitely check it out. All right, we'll get to the interview here in just a second. Called A Familiar Story Told in a Brand New Way, The Watcher is about a slave boy who kills his dragon masters and goes into a post-apocalyptic wasteland, discovering that there's more to life than being a slave. The Watcher is book 1 of the Watcher saga, which has book 2, Storm Dancer, and the concluding saga, The Wandering God, will be out later this year. It is available at mirrorworldbooks.com, amazon.com.ca, Barnes & Noble, Chapters Indigo, and any other online bookstore you can think of. Yes. This one has suddenly decided not to work, and I'm not sure why.
Okay.
But this one does work, and that's all that really matters.
Okay.
So I am with the one and only Sarah Johnson. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Very well. You seem a little nervous.
No more than usual.
No more than usual.
Yeah, kind of a nervous person. That's my baseline.
Why is your baseline nervous?
I don't know, I'm just kind of tightly wound. I always have this higher level of energy than most people, I think.
Manic Energy's good, but you, it's like I can literally like. I still remember. Okay, once upon a time we did an Owl Sense thing, and I remember testing the mic, and you just like talking. You just stood there like deer in headlights. Like, what do I do? And I'm like, oh, come on.
Didn't I say something weird?
No. After we told you you need to talk at this point, yes.
Oh, right. Yeah.
No, you.
It was that I didn't say anything at all.
Yes. That was the point I went, okay. She's not used to this stuff anymore. So, but, I mean, like, and it's really weird, too, because me personally, I think you're really cool. And you are, how did someone describe you? A very unique, one-of-a-kind person. And that's very true and very cool. I just feel, just bring that out more, because it's not terrible. I mean, it's a recorder. We're not going to condemn you or do some kind of weird satanic ritual or anything like that on this thing. I'm just having a conversation.
Okay.
You okay?
I feel like it's judging me a little, but
no, it's not. It's not.
I think if we just talk,
Yeah.
I'll get over it.
Okay. Cool. Judge. Okay. Okay. So I gotta ask them. We'll get to the unicorn thing in a bit. I just gotta ask. So is writing kind of like you write and you run all the time? So is this your most? What do you express when you run? In your opinion, is it just you getting like stressed out? Is it something more than that with you?
Well, it started as a way not to get fat, as it does with a lot of people, and it became more about the headspace. When I'm running, it's like when your body is working that hard, it forces your brain into this really strict economy of thought. There's not a lot of room for clutter. So I think about my writing projects a lot. I think about conversations characters would have with each other, the words they would use, what they're thinking versus what they're saying. So a lot of times I'll come home from my run, and it's very typical to see me dash directly up to my computer and begin writing things down while I'm still dripping sweat because I don't want to lose the ideas. People talk about the shower being the ideal place for thinking about writing ideas, but for me it's more
it's like meditating for you almost.
Yeah, it is very meditative.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So are you ever I know you've run marathons and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought about competing in that kind of thing, or is it more at this point just more like a hobby?
I'm a slow runner, so I'll never be an elite. I'll never be a competitor. I'm solid top third of my age group, which is I'm happy with that.
I'm almost afraid to ask how old you are. She'd be like, punch me, and that would actually hurt.
No, I don't. I'm not weird about age. I'm 38.
You're 38.
And the worst part about that is the last couple of years I've moved up into a higher age group where people get faster. So I've really had to train harder and up my game to stay.
See, I wouldn't have thought that actually with running. Yeah. I wouldn't have.
Sorry to interrupt you guys.
That's okay.
How's it going?
Rocking.
Awesome. You got some drinks from the bar. You can run over here. Hopefully it's a little more quiet.
No, it's good.
Oh,
it's really good.
Yeah.
Are you hungry?
I'm all right for now, but maybe in a bit. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sure. My name is Peyton.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Peyton.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm going to be looking after the two of you today, okay?
Yeah.
So if there is anything you need while you're hanging out, let me know.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks, Peyton.
And see, that's where the edit button can come into handy. Or sometimes I'll let it in. It really, like with this whole.
For those of you listening, that was Peyton.
Yes.
He's awesome.
Or made of cheese or
He's
something.
He's really cute and scruffy.
Nice. Nice.
And too young for my 38-year-old ass. So.
I certainly can't judge, so. I certainly can't. I chased a 20-year-old over the summer. I can't honestly say anything anymore.
Well, how old are you?
35.
Oh, okay, so.
Yeah.
You're reasonably old, too.
Yes, I'm reasonably, I guess. Is there such a term as reasonably old?
Well, I guess then, to answer that question, we have to think, is there such a thing as unreasonably old?
Maybe 90.
You think that's unreasonably old?
Well, it depends. Okay, like 90 for me would be like if I made a promise to my grandmother. This is where I define myself a little bit by what I think I'm going to do. I told my grandmother that at 80 I'm still going to be jumping on trampolines. I might need a nap afterwards if I'm still going to jump on trampolines.
Right.
I think the moment my freedom to do the things I really want to do is gone, I have hit the break point of being reasonably
Right.
old. That's where I think it is. I don't think it's an exact number per se.
No.
It's that point where I need a machine to live, or I can't walk anymore
Right.
properly, or I can't dance, or I can't. And again, I might need a nap after all this stuff, but I'm at peace with that. It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
90 seems okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think when I hear about people dying in their 60s and 70s, I feel like that's young. That's too soon.
very much so.
And that's also where the running comes in. I want to be running when I'm 80. I want to be doing those things.
Yeah.
You know?
So there's nothing wrong with that, and I hope so. So is there like a max distance you ever want, or is there a distance you're like, I want to try it just to see if I can do it?
Well, I've run a couple ultra marathons that are 50K, which doesn't sound that much longer than a marathon, which is 42.2K. But believe me, every step after that 42.2 is a lot. But I enjoyed it. It was a different kind of running, a different kind of training. It's a lot more psychological. I would like to try a longer ultra.
Well, you could do, since we're talking about the age thing. I have a buddy, he lives in Arizona. Good shape. He's 44 years old. So every year on his birthday, he runs that many miles, his age in miles.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's a lot of miles.
that is a lot of miles. But he does it. I made a promise to a lot. At some point, I'm going to be down there when he's doing his run.
Mm-hmm.
He's also he wrote the coolest graphic novel of all time, 1,000 Steps to World Domination. Oddly enough, one of the most inspiring things I've ever read.
Mm-hmm.
That all said, he's a cool dude, and I said I'd do some of that run with him, even though I am nowhere, like physically wise, I can lift anything at this point almost.
Yeah.
It's just running wise, I'm nowhere near the shape I once was. So
I used to work in a bakery, and that was really hard physical labor, but I got so strong. Like, I had pipes.
you still got muscle on you.
Yeah, I
right?
do, but I was a lot, upper body-wise, a lot stronger. Back then, it's amazing when you're lifting 100-pound bags all day.
Yeah, no, that's it, right? I lift anywhere between 5 to 150 pounds, depending on the time of day.
Makes you feel good, though, right? Like, knowing you can do those things.
It does, like, okay, I have zero desire to lift weights. Like,
No.
zero.
No,
Like,
but I'm not talking about, do you even lift, bro? Or
No,
anything like that.
right. But here's the thing, like, when I'm not doing that, I don't want to lift. Because I have lifted so much in the day, I feel like at this point I have nothing to prove.
But it's the strength.
Yeah, absolutely.
Feeling strong.
Oh, absolutely. No.
Feeling capable.
No, I do enjoy it. I think, like, when I do leave my day job, and I can see that day coming at some point in time, maybe sooner than later, who knows, God willing, but that's the thing I'm going to miss the most about it, is the ability, the fact that, okay, I need to lift 150 pounds, I need to go across, like half a kilometer. I can do that.
Yeah.
Right?
What I really love is being tired from physical work. That is one of the best feelings
No, it truly is.
in the world. Being tired from sitting all day on a computer is not as satisfying. Being tired from physical work is a really good feeling.
Well, yeah, because it's honest. It's the old-fashioned honest work mentality. My family is warehousers. My dad was a truck driver, he then became a warehouser. I got a chance to work. There's something really satisfying. It's like, I lifted 8,000 pounds today. That's not outside the realm of possibility for me on a day-in, day-out basis.
Right.
And it feels good. Like, it doesn't feel like, and the other best thing is you don't take your work home. Right?
No.
You're sore, but it's oddly like a satisfying thing. And
Well, especially for writers who clock a lot of chair time. It's important to have something that gets you moving and works your body as well as your brain.
Ron Bender and myself had just had that conversation actually not too long ago. It's just like,
What does he do? Does he do a sport or?
He just sits on his butt most of the day, right? And because he writes, it's all like, I'm a little jealous of the fact that he gets the opportunity to write all day long. So that's the one thing about where I'm at right now. I don't get that opportunity, and
We all wish we had that though, but in reality, I know I would not be as productive if I didn't have other obligations and another job.
yeah.
I think knowing I only have a certain amount of time, like between kids and work and other things, that I only have a certain amount of time to write, it makes me make the most of that time.
which is not a terrible spot to be in at any point. It's just for me personally. I've seen people that write full time, and what ends up happening for them is, realistically speaking, you're productive for about anywhere between 2 to 4 hours, right? Is your actual writing time, and then the rest of it, okay, depending on how busy you are when you're writing full time, the biggest thing that kills you is your correspondence. That gets crazy. Hi, would you like to do this? And because I'm starting to get that point now where I'm starting to get different opportunities come my way now that I never imagined. And I'm not like a full timer yet, but I'm a full timer. I get to see my email having hundreds of emails every day, and I'm like, I gotta answer that, and that would like warp my brain into like an umpteenth level.
Well, so you gotta train people to expect that you may not reply. You may forget. You may think you replied, but didn't actually.
That happens already sometimes.
And so I find now, like, in my professional correspondence, I'm very diligent, but in my personal correspondence, I'm not that great. But people know that, and they're okay with it, and they're okay with just giving me a nudge. It's like, hey, you didn't reply to my email. I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Before we continue, I actually owe you a big thanks too.
For?
You've gone out of the way to read my stuff. You never had to actually do that.
I enjoyed your stuff.
Yeah, I know, but it was highly touching.
Well, I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
Because in my job, I'm the events manager for a bookstore for Owl's Nest Books, and I like to be familiar. Like when we're doing an event, I like to be familiar with who's doing the event or the readers if it's a multi-author meeting, and you read for one of the, I think it was Taste of Local Authors.
Yeah.
So I like to just look at everyone's books, and I usually read about the first 10 pages just to get a feel. And if I like it, I'll be like, hey, put in a pile for something I would like to read to completion. And yours just grabbed me right away. I thought it was, the epic poem is a lost art.
Yes. And an accidental art in my case.
And one of my favorite books is a novel in verse by what's her name? Anne, she's a poet. Now I can't think of her name. Anne Carson. And it's a novel, but it's really just an epic poem called Autobiography of Red, and it's a retelling reimagination of the Seven Labors of Hercules.
Nice.
Except it's from the point of view of one of the monsters that he slays, and it's really beautiful.
Wow.
So when I started reading yours, and it had that kind of same mythological feel, it really pulled me in.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah. I stole shamelessly from Calvin, Coleridge, Miller, and Burroughs. That's where I stole from. I told myself once upon a time that I wondered if I could actually do it.
You like Burroughs?
Edgar S. Burroughs? Yes.
Yeah.
Big time. I like his imagination. His imagination is, yes, his stories are all essentially the same. Boy gets girl at the end of the story. Like, you know this, reading no matter what, except his westerns are a little different, and his
I hate westerns.
but his are actually a little bit different because of how he wrote Tarzan. It added an interesting dimension to the western. He did a couple westerns he's done. A lot of people.
That's not fair. I just think I hate westerns.
Yeah.
Every now and again, I'll read one, and that's recommended to me. Like the Longmire books are actually quite good.
Yeah.
And they're contemporary westerns. But I just have this thing in my head that I don't like westerns. I don't know why.
Because the western was done to death once upon.
Badly.
Yes, that's the thing, right? Yeah. I mean, look.
I think like Louis L'Amour western.
Louis L'Amour's like in terms of economy of words is okay, but I mean it's like a true.
Something all right?
All right. Yeah. But in terms of like, you don't get a Magnificent Seven so like that's a good western. You don't get that very, very often, and the thing is, it's a cool genre, and just strictly as a movie point of view.
Or Elmore Leonard's short story 310 to Yuma.
Yeah.
So good. Intense.
Fantastic. I mean, a very real, down to earth story. And by the way, the original movie is better than the remake.
I don't know if I saw it.
The original is a little bit. the original is a little bit better. The remake is still pretty good. Russell Crowe and Christian Bale are the remake.
I don't think I saw it.
It's really good. My personal favorite thing is when after he went, Bale's character is the lawman. He wins respect to the criminal. Right before the end of the movie, he's like, I gotta let you in on a little secret. I escaped Yuma twice. And it's just grins, like, whatever, I don't care. I'm just getting you on the train. I don't really care what happens to you afterwards, right? It's kind of one of those. It was one of those moments where it's like it's no longer a good guy, bad guy thing. It's two people, right? Just at different points in their lives, and kind of like just going, right? And that's a good Western. A bad Western is, I got the evil lawman that's like no good. I mean, it's good pro wrestling.
The stock character.
Yeah.
Stock circumstances.
Exactly. No, it's that
stock dialogue. Yeah.
The only other kind of Western story I really enjoy is also I enjoyed the Gunslinger by Stephen King. It's kind of a Western.
I haven't read the Dark Tower series. I've started reading The Gunslinger a couple times, and I just couldn't get into it, but I've read a couple of the sort of short stories that he's written in that world, and even with that character. His name's Roland.
Yeah.
The short story, it's called The Little Sisters of Illyria.
That's fantastic.
Oh, it's so creepy. I loved it.
It was how I got into Dark Tower, actually. It was in the Legends anthology.
Yeah.
It was, I was like, whoa.
Well, and then you read, because even I, just knowing what I do about the Dark Tower series, reading through Stephen King's oeuvre, there are so many references in so many books.
Oh, absolutely. No,
and tie-ins to that world.
Yeah, no.
The men in yellow coats, like that was all.
Salem's Lot is tied into it. The Stand, although that is my favorite. The Stand is my favorite beginning from Stephen King. It's one of the strongest opening 100 pages I've ever read. The rest of the book put me to sleep.
It was way too long.
That was it. It put me to sleep. The opening is fantastic. But I mean, I thought how the whole thing kind of plays out.
This is the thing about King, though. Like, his novels are almost always way overwritten. But he writes a novella like no one's business.
Absolutely.
That is where, like, his short stories are really good, but his novellas, I don't think anyone writes novellas better than him. That is his, like, that's the story where he shines. Like, Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption, The Body,
The Mist.
Yeah, all those short novels or long short stories, I guess you could call them.
Well, I don't know. You're pretty good at those.
It's a completely different kind of writing. Like, I like writing both, like short stories and novels. I write them both, and I approach them from different places and different ideas. I feel like short stories, the best short stories I've ever read, I may not even remember what they're about, but I remember the feeling, and that's what stands out for me. So I feel like with a short story, you're not trying to have this complicated plot with a lot of different people. You're trying to communicate a series of connected images, or just a feeling. And I think if you can do that, you've written a good short story. A novel is more of a sprint versus the marathon.
The painting one still creeps me out in Suicide Bit.
Which one?
I can't remember the exact title. The one about the painting.
No, what was that story called?
Yeah, I can't remember. It still creeps me out.
But now it's bugging me that I can't remember the name of my own story.
It's okay. When I get to the podcast with you, I will actually mention, like, oh, this is what this was called.
But that story was inspired by my own daughter when she was in preschool. Came home from preschool and she says, "Mommy, I painted a picture. It's just for you."
Oh God!
And she hands it to me, and it's still kind of soggy. The paint is still sort of wet because she covered the entire piece of paper with paint. There was no white at all, and it was all black except for this brown, what was obviously meant to be a bridge, sort of like a crazy, like with like a really extreme curve, like wood wooden footbridge with a tiny stream of water, but otherwise, other than the water in the bridge, it was all black. And it kind of creeped me out. And so I, did the normal mom thing and said, "Oh, like, sweetie, this is great." And she says, "I'm going to hang it up." And she runs upstairs. And I'm thinking she's just putting it in her room. But then later in that evening, I'm getting ready for bed, and I go into the bedroom, and she has tacked it into the wall directly above my pillow.
That's awesome.
And it's just hanging there, all creepy, and I'm like hearing like the echo of her voice in my mind. "It's just for you, Mommy." And I'm thinking, okay, I'm officially haunted.
That's okay. Your daughter haunts you. It's all
But
good.
anyways, and
Yeah.
the story came from that painting. I still have it.
Yeah.
I should show it to you sometime.
You really should, but before we do, Suicide Stitch is the short story collection. She's really good, like really, really good. The other story I really like is about the woman with the kid. That was just they're kind of two strangers meeting at different points in their lives.
Oh right, yeah.
That one was like, okay.
See, that's a short story where you think on paper it sounds very uninteresting. It's like just a few scenes of two people sitting in a room together talking.
Yes.
But so much is happening between them
Yes.
over those like 5 meetings.
Well, but it's funny because, like I said, and the reason I went back to thanking you earlier too is, okay, as crazy as this story I'm currently working on is, you actually put some things in my head that I've kept in mind. Like my story, if you could take away all the crazy, right, is really about a guy that made a choice of his life and wasn't happy with it, and now he's trying to change it. That's the story in a nutshell. I'm good at nutshells apparently, but that's it. But I wouldn't have really put that into a really hard perspective if you hadn't browbeat me on the first part. Like, okay, what's the connection here? And but I'm not. And this is why I'm thanking you more than anything else. Is because I actually tend to agree with you. If the story, if the characters aren't something people you can connect with, I don't really care what happens in the story. You're not going to care.
Well, smarter people than me, and this is why I believe as a writer, you should never stop learning. You always need to take classes, get advice from people, mentor under someone, and someone I studied under, her name is Rosemary Nixon. She said that a character is his or her desire. They are what they want. And what they want needs to influence every decision they make, everything they say. Like, that's how you get a character that feels real, because they want something. Mm-hmm. And I'm all about that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and like I said, and now I have this crazy Uber series. I can go as long or as short as I want. I even have my next spin-off story. Mm-hmm. So the unicorn. This is actually how the unicorn thing came about. This is the thing, and she's laughing. So my sister made a request. She wanted the unicorn that barked rainbows in the story. The context of the story allowed for it. Then she made me promise not to kill it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's my sister. I don't break my word as a general rule of thumb, but there are some people I absolutely will refuse to break my word with, and she's one of those people. And
sisters are important. I have a sister. I'm very close to her.
Yeah, exactly. And so she's like, please don't kill it. So fortunately, I built a solution in.
What kind of monster would kill a unicorn who barks rainbows?
I'm going to tell you.
Accidents happen, but on purpose, no way.
No. I'm just going to tell you. I had a coffee with Adam Dries yesterday. We actually was like kind of like darn, but I mean it was just like that's Adam. So what happened was like, what do I do with this? So suddenly, not only did I figure out the solution was already in the story, which is beautiful, but also I figured out a spin-off involving the unicorn, and I based the mob boss off Adam Dries. Right, so I thought, okay, I won't base the daughter off his daughter, but I'll base the daughter. What would Adam be like if he was a mob enforcer with a spoiled daughter? And the spoiled daughter gets a little like side story in the fall, and the unicorn's there and other things as well. So I'm like, that's where it came from. It's like, I have to figure out a name for this thing.
So I prepared a list of names.
Oh, God.
I just had a spare 5 minutes to think about this. And in no particular order of preference,
Okay.
Bristol,
Okay.
Agamemnon,
That's actually really good.
kind of grand,
Yeah.
Patches,
Okay.
Sprocket, just because I like the sound of it,
Okay.
Whiskers,
Interesting.
and Andrew Lloyd Webber.
That would be amazing. So the other thing too, because the way this world works is there's a meme. It's a meme, right? That has evolved on the internet over time. So I'm also going to give the Unicorn a Twitter account, and it's spamming trolls on Twitter.
The real Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yes. Yes. Which is such to say, right? I built a fun world, and that was where this all came from. I really like Agamemnon, right? So that's the one that of the 60 lists there. The other, but here's the interesting about the Unicorn experiment: almost no women names.
Oh.
Almost none. Agamemnon could be a man or a woman, right? And
Bristol, Patches, and Whiskers are
gender neutral. We're gender neutral ones. Like
In fact, I think all of them are gender neutral, to be honest.
Yeah, but I'm saying gender neutral. But I had Stephen. I think that was the best argument I heard was actually for Stephen.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was like, I can't believe that this is a.
Yeah, he really wanted you to name the
She did actually. Yeah, she did.
I can't remember.
Sarah Jane is her
Okay,
name.
yes. And she really wanted you to name it Stephen.
Yeah, right. Catherine was the only one to come up with an actual true, like Connie, the way she spelled that's like that was like that's the closest like.
Actually, I really like Connie.
Yeah.
It just feels right.
Yeah.
Unicorn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And someone suggested Skittles. And
I
it was
can't
funny.
use it. I want to.
If you ever follow the Skittles Twitter account, it's
Yeah.
actually quite funny.
Yeah.
And they talk about they tweeted something about a unicorn because there's like 8 colors of Skittles, and they're like, what would a unicorn with 8? I don't know. I can't remember. It was funny, but it was something about an octocorn, and I ruined it by explaining it.
Just
be quiet.
It's okay. You didn't ruin anything. I did no idea. The only problem is
There's this joke that's so funny. I'm going to tell you exactly why it's funny.
Exactly.
We'll all laugh.
I don't know. This is an amusing conversation to me. I just can't use Skittles because of the because of the trademark. I just can't do it. Maybe I should ask. If I could, sometimes for stuff like that, they might say yes. Yeah, I might ask. I'll have to ask though on that one.
As long as it wouldn't be like damaging to their brand.
It really wouldn't be. It's like, are you guys cool with me making a unicorn named Skittles that trolls Twitter trolls? I think on principle they'd be okay with that.
It's like when Donald Trump's son was likening refugees who are terrorists to Skittles or something like that, and Skittles is like, no. Leave us out of this, please.
No, it's just one of those things where I just look at and go. I guess we should get to the giant Twitter troll in the room. I really hit you hard, didn't it, that he got in?
What's that?
It hit you hard that he got in.
Yeah, it did. Well, and you can argue I'm not American.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine.
Here,
No.
But his election into the most powerful position in the world has given rise to a crop of politicos here that are taking pages right from his playbook of xenophobia and racism and misogyny. It's quite frightening. I'm frightened. People think this is Canada. It can't happen here, but I'm frightened.
That's fair.
And that's why I marched yesterday.
Yes, and there's something wrong. With that. Well, like I said, for me, and here's the funny thing with me. At this point in my career, I almost work exclusively with women.
Yeah.
It's my publisher's a woman.
And why not? Women are awesome.
No, they are. But I didn't plan. Like, this is one of those things I never planned. My publisher's a woman. My artist for The Watcher, Stormdancer, and The Wandering God's a woman. Most of my editor's a woman. 5 out of 7 beta readers are women. It just, and again, I never sought this out. It just so happened to be this. And One thing I've been very fortunate with is you've all rocked. Every single one of you I've ever worked with. And Florence, my artist, is probably the most professional woman I've ever worked with. Like, more so even than my publisher, and then like, she's a consummate professional. And Virginia Stark, who I'm co-writing something with, is the most fun person I've ever worked with in my life. She's amazing. And
I'm really happy to hear you say that, because in any area, even the arts, like, we need to support women and champion them. I love men. I have amazing men in my life, you included. But women their profile needs to be raised. In the literary world is no different than the business world and the STEM field.
Well, no.
Women are not recognized for their contributions as much as they should be.
I agree with that. I will say, I think, comparatively speaking, just based on just my own experience of who I'm interviewing and stuff like that, there's a lot of, I think women are represented, like, there's a lot more representation in the literary field than maybe in some other ones. Like, if you were to talk, like, women in comics, for example, totally don't get enough respect there, like, big time. That's because I look at someone like Colleen Doran. If you ever look her up, you'll understand why I say that. She's amazing. I look at, some of the women writers that are in the industry, like Yossi Moon, fantastic, talented people.
Raina Telgemeier.
Yeah.
Fiona Staples.
Fiona's fantastic.
Alison Bechtel.
Yes. Or Jodie Belair, probably the backbone of like a dozen comic books, and nobody gives the respect that, and good, like some of the best in the industry. But Tula Latoy, another someone that's really, really good. That's I can't remember her actual cinema score, but her other career is just as impressive too. One of my favorite artists right now in comics is Megan Hutchison. She does a book called Rockstar. She was on my podcast. Awesome.
I love how much you love comics, by the way.
Well, yeah.
I love how excited you are by them, and not just because you're some dorky guy who likes comics. It's just you have a real appreciation for the artistry that goes into it and the craft.
Well, yeah. Again, upbringing. I love comics. I've been reading comics since I was 8. So, I started with superheroes like everybody else, but you look at, and now I'm at the point where I have to cut back, but I still don't want to. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's the best of all worlds. It's literary. It's art. It's a true amalgamation of a bunch of different art forms, and it's beautifully well done. And there's just it's definitely more of a visual medium, and again, on a personal note, I think pencilers and people that actually draw comics for a living should get more than writers. And I'm a writer, and I'm saying that, like, honestly, right? Because the work the heavy lifting that they all do is phenomenal to me. But the thing is, and that's the thing, so I'm a fan, and it's something I want to actually do a little bit more of in 2018, because I'm a little swamped this year.
I think graphic novel, you could kill that medium. I think
Oh no, I
very well. Even just the way you write, it feels like you do have a few illustrations in
absolutely
your books, but it feels like it's meant to be accompanied by pictures.
It's something that's definitely big influence on my work. Again, because the other thing too, I don't see, like, especially as I keep playing with more mediums, I don't see the differences so much anymore. Like, okay, we're doing a podcast, which is a visual. We're telling a story about a conversation between me and the amazing Sarah Johnson, and it's you are amazing. And
I snorted, in case you didn't hear it.
Yeah. But it's like I can't help it. I can't help myself. But the thing is, this is a storytelling medium too, right? The story here is I'm here interviewing you, right? To try to make people aware that A, you're out there, B, you're really, really good, and she is, folks. I'm actually really curious to see how she does in the novel world. We'll talk about that before it's all
June 1st.
Yes. 2 months. So we'll talk about that before it's all said and done. But the fact of the matter is, I've been playing I've played with video too. I've done film stuff as well. It's all storytelling is almost like the tools are different, but the result is very, very similar. I don't see the difference quite so much anymore, and I just see it all kind of like a challenge, and that's pretty much where I'm at with that kind of stuff.
Well, and that's what I love about all art is it is all storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just a single image, there's a story in it, and it may be a different story for different people, but to me, when I approach my craft, it's all about the storytelling. Like, that is the craft. That's, the story well told will stick in people's minds, whether it's a line or a visual or a feeling.
Very good. But we're good.
You good?
We're good.
All right.
So, but I think he's antsy that we sat here and talked about 30 minutes about random things. Like, you haven't ordered anything
I
yet.
know, Peyton is upset.
I know.
We should maybe not upset Peyton. And actually, I should probably eat something because I ran 16 kilometers.
You did. You should eat something.
On an
I
empty
should too.
stomach.
I should too.
So if you want to stop your recording.
No, it's
But if
okay.
you want
No.
to let it go,
We
might
actually-
have interesting conversations over the Boston.
Well, it's just something like we talked about the fact that women in fiction and art. I do agree with you that they still don't get the pay scale they deserve, but I also tend to think that especially in literary, just based on what I have observed, it's definitely getting a lot more attention. I just can't wait till the day comes where I can say Sarah Johnson is an amazing author who happens to be a woman. Because that means then you
Exactly, gender should be
Yeah.
incidental. And for 2016, I didn't make a resolution to read only women, but I just kind of thought, you know what, I'm just going to try to read mostly women. And I did. There were a few guys who snuck in there, but including Josh.
Yes.
And he was a worthy exception. But I read so many books by women, and women's stories, there's something about them that resonates, I think, not just with women, but with men, if they were to pick it up and read it. But I find in my work, in a bookstore, men are reluctant to read books by female authors. It's really strange. Women will read anything, but men.
I went through a big phase where I read a lot of women's stuff too. But again, I read science fiction and fantasy. Like, that's my primary reading stuff. So Ursula Le Guin was as much read as, not quite as much read, but still read along the lines of Ray Bradbury and Mercedes Lackey, who, by the way, I think you get along great with her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I hope someday you are fortunate enough to meet her and Larry Dixon both. I think you'd have a blast with both of them. I think you would. But she's amazing. C.J. Surratt is probably one of the most logical science fiction authors I've ever read. I didn't even know she was a woman for the longest time. I was just like, oh. No, it's just again, not even as a thing. I think part of it, though, if you really want to sit there, I think it's how it's commercialized to some degree. That is somehow is. So again, the genres I read, like, okay, I like young adult, but when I read, say, Veronica Roth, or I read, I want to say Alison Goodman, but I don't know if that's the right one. Right, that feels right, but not quite right. Anyway, or whether I read Susan Collins. I almost feel like I'm reading the same thing, right?
Genre can be formulaic.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think that's a gender thing.
No. And it might be, and totally might be. You might be right on that.
It's one of the pitfalls of genre fiction is it's formulaic. Just like with literary fiction, it's like soggy middle, boring. But a good story is a good story, regardless of genre.
Exactly. But no, it's. I do think again. I can't speak for. I think comics are even come a long way too. But I think fiction that's going to get better. Fine art is actually something I'm kind of curious about on that one, because that one I feel like that I still feel gets shortchanged a little bit. which, and again, part of the reason why I care so much about that is I have a sister, and she's a super talented artist in her own right, and
So is my sister.
yeah. So, my sister's a professional caliber level photographer. She might not believe that, but she is, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a brother, right? So, you know, but I look at the opportunities. I look at the opportunities that are there. Sometimes I'm like, but on the other hand, you know, if you're, and I think this is becoming more and more a thing. We're branching out and niching out as authors now, especially in the independent, quote unquote, independent scene. I guess technically you're not an indie author, are you? Technically.
If by indie you mean self-published?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, technically.
No. I mean, I publish by small presses.
Yeah.
Of which is, I guess, technically traditional publishing, but it has a lot in common with you know,
Absolutely.
indie authorship.
Yeah. Yeah, so technically, but I'm just saying, but the fact that, okay, we're branching out and niching out, I think today more than anything else, because of the wonderful tools we have in terms of media promotion and stuff like that, it's a lot more possible for everyone to stand out based on their merit.
True, but it's also a lot harder to separate the wheat from the chaff.
No. That's the flip side, right? That's the flip side, right?
I feel like, well, you know, I hugely support indie authors.
Yes.
There are great books out there that are quality and professional products, and but I do feel like there is some value to gatekeeping. I don't think it has to be an either or situation.
I think it's just it's a combination of both sides have to evolve so a little bit. There is such a thing as quality control, and there should be some, because although kudos to her success, I never ever want to read another 50 Shades of Grey or try to read another 50 Shades of Grey.
Well, and that's sort of the biggest argument for traditional publishing. That's a good book.
Yeah.
Right? You know, with traditional publishing, the argument can be made that they're just looking to make money, which I don't think is entirely fair.
No.
But it does happen, right? You know, they.
I saw that you had the menus open.
Yes, we do.
Come by and see if you have any questions.
Well, do you have the winning lottery ticket numbers? No?
No.
No? Okay.
Do you think I'd be here
Yes. Laughing at us all.
laughing at you all?
That's right.
Thinking to myself, haha, what a bunch of poor suckers.
Exactly. See, See, I truly think the richest guy on the planet is the janitor. And he's sitting there, he's just cleaning away.
Even if I wasn't the richest man on the planet, I don't think I'd ever give up working completely.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know,
You have to have
there's
something to do.
some interaction, you know, a purpose. Sitting around just spending your money doesn't seem like a full life.
I think that's a recipe for turning into a really garbage person.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Or someone with huge drug problems, one or the other.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just gonna have a classic pepperoni small.
All right.
All right.
Original and thin crust.
Which better?
Pepperoni, I'd say go original.
Okay, done.
I'll have the spinach and artichoke dip, please.
Would you like another wine?
Yes, please.
9-ounce Pinot Grigio, I believe. That.
See, this I might leave in.
That was Peyton. He knows his crusts.
Yes, that's right. Totally. So, okay, I guess you're getting into novel writing now a little bit more seriously.
I've always been.
You always been?
Yeah, well, let me tell you. The short story collection came out first, and I call it my accidental short story collection because I had submitted a story to a publisher that was putting together an anthology, and they rejected it because it wasn't a good fit for the theme, which is fair. But the editor sent me a really nice email asking if I had other stories because she really loved what I'd written, and if I had more in a similar genre, would I be interested in possibly putting together a collection? And I actually didn't reply to her for about 4 months.
That's terrible, but okay.
I know. And then I told my spousal unit about it, just sort of offhand. He said, "How long ago was this?" I said, "I don't know, a few months." And he told me to pull my head out of my ass and reply to her. So I did. And I sent her a packet of about 18 short stories, and from those she chose 11 that she thought fit well together. And that's where Suicide Stitch came out of. So, thank you so much.
All right. This one? Yeah.
That was Peyton again. He brought me wine.
That's right.
So he's aces in my book. So that was a book that I wasn't planning on, so it was a very different experience, and it's done well, and I'm really happy with it. But the novel, I started writing novels, which I think most writers do. They start with, the grand, huge thing, and I almost hit Peyton. So I have about 3 novel manuscripts I've written that are just like in the truck. They will never see the light of day. They're awful, but I learned a lot writing them. And then I took my first writing class ever was an year-long novel writing class. And I had an idea for a novel, and over the course of that year I wrote the rough draft of In Practice. And it was 300,000 words long. So I realized, even in my newbiness, that no publisher was ever going to take a 300,000 word novel. So I broke it in 2. There was quite a logical place to break it in half. And it sat for a couple years, and I took more classes, and I learned my craft, and I'm still learning. We're always learning. I wrote a lot of short stories. And I came back to it. I did a mentorship through the Writers Guild of Alberta with Lee Byrne, and I decided I wanted to get this first, part of the manuscript in shape, and I wanted to, find a publisher. So I worked really hard with Lee, who taught me so much. She's brilliant. And after that, I did a full rewrite of the manuscript, and it was not perfect. You can work on something forever. So I decided to start submitting it, and I did. And I found a publisher, and that'll be coming out June 1st.
Congratulations. So we're going to get to the wonderful part where I think the interview can come to a conclusion. We've gone kind of all over the map, which is fantastic. So how can people find you?
You can find me, I'm on Facebook, not so much, but I am on Twitter. So my Twitter handle is Lead Lined Alias, which I thought was clever, and this was the early days of Twitter, so bear with me. So you can find me on Twitter. You can find me at my website, sarahljohnson.com. Contact me through there. You can also find me working at Owl's Nest Books if you're ever in Calgary.
Excellent.
That was Sarah Johnson. I want to thank Sarah very much for being part of the show. It's great to finally have her on. I hope to have her on again somewhere down the road. Her current work, Suicide Stitch, short story collection featuring some amazing stories. More of a horror bent, but there's some really good literary gems in there as well. You should definitely take a look at her collection, especially if you like short stories. Very few people do it as well as she does, and you should definitely give it a shot. Her next book, In Practice, is going to be coming out, as she said, in June, which will be amazing. And one of her stories from Suicide Stitch, Little Sister, Little Brother, was selected for Comic Press's Best Hardcore Horror, which is also out in June. So kudos to Sarah. Thank you for being a part, making my show better, just being on it. And that will do it for that. This is another episode of Just Joshing. Buy my books. Take a look at The Watcher and Storm Dancer. They are currently available at mirrorworldbooks.com. The Watcher is 99 cents right now. It's going to be that way for the foreseeable future. My next book, The Cloud Diver, is coming out real soon. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So, guys, whatever you do out there, whatever you're working on, whatever you're rocking, whatever works and sacrifices you're going to do, stay inspired out there. And keep being you. It's amazing enough.
Josh.